You ever see people when they're in a trance, they're hypnotized to forget the number 4 or something? You know, they tell them to count to 10. They're like, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hey, there's only 9. You know, if a hypnotist can create a blindness of a whole entire number, what else could we as a society be missing? You know, Berenstain Bears, we suddenly can't see the E, and it's only Berenstain Bears. But what if it's only because we're all in a massive trance? Maybe the television's actually hypnotizing us. You ever look at someone watching TV, and you try to say something to them, and the words just like fly right over them, just right past them? Maybe they're drooling over their potato chips, getting fat while they're mindlessly chanting a jingle on a commercial. The best part of waking up. Hey, Frank. Frank, is Folgers. Frank. What? Huh? Where am I? Where did the last 5 hours go? Why do I feel like going out and compulsively buying a bunch of useless products from brand names for 40% more than the generic ones? Did someone just say my name? What? Where did they go? Where's my family? Wait, did I have a family? Yeah, I had kids. Bart, Lisa, and I'm Homer. No, that's not it. No, Frank. My name's Frank. The last thing I remember, I was in high school. Now I'm 50 years old. What happened? If we can forget the number 4, is it possible that one day we'll be devastated, but we won't even know it? Like, maybe we'll just forget Adele ever existed. Just sort of tune her out, you know? How awesome would that be? No more people crying to sad breakup music. People are just randomly whistling in the sunshine and smiling for no reason. You know, people wouldn't run out of Kleenex anymore because of all the tears. That means rather than everyone getting a cold from someone that has to wipe their snot on their sleeve because of the Adele regularly scheduled office cry that just happens, instead it's just a breath of fresh air and smiles. You want to find Adele music? Just follow the trail of tears. But if we suddenly forget she's there will just be sunshine and rainbows and giggles and smiles. Plus this random cloud of sadness that we just don't even notice. Just floats right by us and fades away into the background. Just off into the distance. Totally vanishes. Hey Shayla, what are you thinking? I think I'm supposed to be sad for no reason, but I can't remember why. Sadness? Who needs it? Get the kids. We're all going out to get a banana split. Plus, with everyone healthy, you wouldn't have doctor offices where people sneeze on you all the time, you know? You ever enter a doctor's office? You get a checkup, and you leave with a cold, plus poison in your bloodstream from a vaccination containing mercury, and a sore arm from the toxins raging through your bloodstream. Like, okay, I confess to being totally ignorant on the whole vaccination versus anti-vaccination thing. Vaxxers claim that it's the anti-vaxxers getting them sick. And anti-vaxxers claim it's the vaxxers that they're the carriers of the disease. Once they put the thing in you and they carry it, they just don't get it themselves. But the anti-vaxxers say, okay, vaxxers, if you trust your vaccine so much, why are you worried about what we do? But there's a difference between settled science and something that looks settled. And as a non-scientist, we don't know the difference. We have no way to tell. Right? We don't know if this is a situation where if you predict you drop an apple, it will fall. Or that 9 out of 10 doctors and scientists say smoking is a balanced part of the food pyramid. Right? Unless you convince the public, it's all just conjecture to them. People grew up being told about food pyramids with high-carb diets, bad information about nutrition. Right? They were taught that fats and oils make you fat. They were taught that drinking 8 glasses of water a day was supposed to happen, right? They used to treat depression with cocaine back in Sigmund Freud's day, you know? And if you get sick, it's because you didn't smoke enough cigarettes. Excuse us if we're a little skeptical about the alleged settled science and where the money comes from and what the incentive is to come out with a publication and why only 1% of all scientists peer review the same 1% review every single document that goes through. What's up with that? Do people just not like to do peer review stuff? It's not really representative of the peers if it's only 1% of them, is it? So science, they have to find a way to earn their credibility back, and it has nothing to do with the science itself. It's everything to do with the communication. The general probability distribution, assuming a binomial Gaussian curve, and the data set has a confidence interval, leaving a margin of error between 2%, and therefore we can be 90% confident, assuming the standard model, and assuming the data is representative, and assuming the axioms of science, assuming the double-blind study effectively eliminated question bias, response bias, confirmation bias, and 142 other biases cognitive science recognizes, and assuming the assumptions we assume assumptively are true. Then projecting and assuming a linear best fit model with a 0.4 correlation that the Earth's temperature may increase due to carbon dioxide, except in the case of volcanoes, due to the stratospheric, sulfuric, nucleate, and aerosols reflecting solar radiation from coronal mass injections. What? Right? Total communication problem. And then on the other side of it, you have Al Gore, who did a really good job communicating the problem, but he sort of didn't really get the facts right. He comes in fresh off inventing the internet to put on his lab coat pretending he's a scientist, using his understanding of fear-based politics to apply it to the situation. Like, the thing you gotta be really panicked about is the world, which is in a lockbox, is coming to an end. Like, he's like, New York will be underwater by 2012. Massive doom is here. Everyone panic. It's all your fault. Stop breathing. Destroy all the cows that have ever farted. They're releasing methane into the atmosphere. It's the end. Right? And then right after he does all that, he gets in an SUV towards his private plane, flies to one of his dozens of homes around the world, turns up the heat, jumps in a sauna, sprays a bunch of aerosol cans, and burns money just for fun. Like, flash forward 10 years, and everyone's who base their understanding of science based upon what Al Gore said, they're looking at New York, going, hello? Is still here. At least in the literal sense. New York's sort of this zombie state where people walk around like cogs in a wheel, doing lots of stuff, but not really. They're just sort of processed machine, They're just a machine running efficiently. But I'm just saying, New York didn't just break off and float away to join Cuba on an adventure to find Atlantis. Isn't there some middle ground where humans probably have some impact on the planet, but there's lots of chaos, complicated variables, you can't really know exactly to what degree, everything's a little uncertain, and because of that, the exact solution that's best for everyone is probably, either elusive or dependent upon several variables and how you feel about those variables and how much significance you weight towards them. Like, I'm all for throwing $1 trillion at any problem as long as there's no one paying for it. Like, if you can do the whole Michael Jackson thing, I will be standing in a circle singing with you. Heal the world, make it a better place. But an asteroid might hit us. Maybe $1 trillion could create some sort of asteroid defense mechanism, Asteroid prevention facility. Maybe it could also feed hundreds of millions of people for a day. Or over 1 million people for a year. Maybe we could spend half of that $1 trillion building a super intelligent, artificial intelligence-based government system that operates with or without us. And then spend the other $500 billion 10 years later to invent an AI system designed to destroy the other AI system so we prevent Skynet. Then we'll still come out ahead. Maybe we can program some sort of shutdown command in the AI where you sing to it a specific song and it just shuts down. Heal the world, make it a better place. Maybe money would be better spent in disaster prevention for hurricanes and earthquakes. The economics question is totally separate, and we're not going to heal the planet, unless we know where to spend, how much to spend, what that's taking away from, and what the thing about global warming is, if it's real, and if it's a threat, then If it's such a problem, there may be nothing we can do about. If it's a smaller problem, then the future innovation and invention of technology may eventually solve that problem. So, and in fact, if that's the case, doing something might actually slow down economic growth, and that actually may prevent us from solving it. It really has to be right in that Goldilocks zone for curbing energy output to be the right decision, I don't know. I have no way of knowing. I just, in general, don't like the idea of plunging society into the 1800s where the poverty rate was 10 times higher just for fun, and then we realize afterwards, oh, I guess it wasn't a problem. Or, oh, it was a problem. We died anyways, Neither of those are good outcomes. So it has to be right in that middle where that was the right decision. But even then, you're still in poverty, suffering. So it's I don't think I want to And plus, what about an ice age? An ice age might come, and then we're like, oh shoot, quick, let's get this thing started. We have to throw out all our hairspray. Just everyone's running around spraying hairspray intentionally. We got to really pollute this planet. We got to heat things up. An ice age is coming. I don't know. I'm probably totally wrong about all this because, again, I'm not well educated on science. But there has to be someone that can communicate it if this is a problem. And I'm sorry, but Al Gore, he lost credibility when he said New York will be underwater by 2012. If he had said in 2027, then okay, jury's still out. You still got some time. So I don't know what he was thinking. This date is, I guess it has to be urgent enough where you actually, oh my gosh, in 5 years, things are going to be really bad if we don't do something about it now. I guess that's more of a call to action than in 2057, things are going to be bad, So I guess he was trying to go for that, but it's kind of too late now. He's trying to pump out the global warming part 2, what was the inconvenient truth, What about his inconvenient truth that New York's still around? I don't know. Plus, okay, maybe CO2 is massively causing the planet to heat. I get it, but what if the alternative was an ice age and we actually save the planet? How do we know these things? Bill Nye was on. He's saying we know global warming happened because an ice age should have happened by now. It's okay, and that's a bad thing? It's a bad thing that we avoided the ice age? I don't know if you realize this, folks, but most people in ice age die. You can extinct, dinosaurs, the meanest creatures on the planet. They just go extinct. Just based on the fact it gets too cold and they're nah. The fiercest creature is just nah, it's too cold, I'm dead. The biggest problem I have with global warming isn't that global warming isn't real. It's that it probably is real, but not to the Al Gore degree. It's only to a small or maybe moderate degree. It's more to assuming the standard model and a binomial distribution, correlation of 40%, all that stuff. It's that much, And meanwhile, it creates a distraction from the argument of whether or not we should actually have clean air and clean water. I actually agree. We should have clean air and clean water. But you've divided the public politically in half so that no one's ever going to want to get anything done. I think this whole thing's a distraction. I think it's, actually working against itself. I don't know. You could create tax credits for companies and maybe invest some government money, and then you could raise some money based on government lending money to small businesses dedicated to cleaning the air and cleaning the water, providing green energy. And it would eventually pay for itself, Most people would say yes, case closed. Instead you have Al Gore, in a polarized country on whether or not to trust him. And everyone's like, oh no, the polar bears, they're clutching to the last piece of ice. And meanwhile, they just found in Antarctica that there's this underwater magma plume thing. It's an underwater volcano basically, but it's under the sheet of ice. And apparently it's super hot and they're surprised that the ice hasn't melted. they found like evidence of this, and I'm like, I don't know. That's a side tangent. But because half the country doesn't trust anything Al Gore says, and half the country automatically does, you have this debate where it's like this huge divide, and it's just never going to get settled. The entire subject's off limits. You can't talk about it at Thanksgiving without getting mad at a relative, you know? You're like, Aunt Maggie, like, I'm never going to talk to you again. It's ridiculous. You know, most people would say, yes, there's too many toxins and heavy metals in the air and in the water. You know, it's certainly true that toxins in your bloodstreams is preferable to not having these poison things floating around in your bloodstream, you know. And obviously, the body can flush some of it out, you know, but only at a certain rate, right? The studies say fluoride lowers your IQ. That bromine slows down the metabolism, that aluminum adds to depression, that, you know, there's so many different studies on all these, like, minerals in the bloodstream, and they're actively being put into the things, into our water and air, which, you know, in the air, you breathe in, it goes through the lungs into the bloodstream. The water you drink, or you eat an animal that drank it, you know, goes into your bloodstream. Or you ate an animal that drank it, you know. Like, maybe the body naturally flushes out toxins fast enough to deal with it, but there's got to be a point where it gets a little bit too high, where it's oversaturated, you know, where the body can't flush them out fast enough. You know, and especially if the wheats and grains and oats, they're watered with water containing fluoride. Animals eat that food and drink fluoridated water themselves. Larger animals eat those animals. Now we're breathing toxins in the air, drinking fluoride, and eating the animals that have been filled with fluoride, and all the other toxins too. I'm pretty much saying that I don't think people would disagree with this stuff if they actually looked into it. But you get into climate change and all that stuff, and everyone's got a model that didn't work, and then they cross out the ones that didn't work and say, okay, these do. That's like what they do on a stock picking website, you know? You put your email in along with 100,000 other people. They deliver different stocks to each emails or whatever, and they filter all the people that have stocks that went up into a different email. They give them all a few stocks. You know, once you have like 3 in a row that they've recommended, then they sell you their product knowing that, like, hey, look at our last 3 winners. You can check your emails. Like, that's the same thing they can do with the models of what the temperatures predict to be. And they'll even tell you, like, variability, 40% correlation, and it's a linear fit, assuming blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, people have room to disagree with that stuff because there's, at the end of the day, there's some human deciding how much weight is applied. And then there's the economic models, which is separate from the climate models. And then there's the butterfly effect where, oh, we didn't account for this one butterfly. It flapped its wings. Now there's a hurricane on the other side of the world. That created an effect that changed the temperature grid of the planet. You know? It's like, people aren't going to be like, oh, yeah, that's credible. They're going to find room for some doubts. Or room to be like, okay, yeah, this seems about right, you know, but I don't know, but it seems right. I'll trust them, you know. It's one or the other. It's not like, okay, not only is this settled science, but I'm generally not going to drink mercury. On the back of my toothpaste, it says, if a child eats more than a pea-sized amount, contact poison control. Okay, I can get behind the fact that I don't want poison in the air I breathe and in the water, you know, case closed. Then we're actually moving towards a solution. But instead it's like Al Gore and his army of trolls are like saying like the planet's warming and it's all your fault. And then there's this polarization and the people are attacking each other and it's like it's so bad. Then people become the toxins, you know? I don't know. You can't mess up and carry the two, or having improper weighting, or fail to account for a single butterfly that throws your whole model off. But instead it turns into the political debate, and to make matters worse, the one guy that actually was popular enough that unified people through music, Sort of had a reputation problem. Then he died. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and all my children in Neverland. I never touched them. It's a conspiracy. Like, I'd be sad about all of this. But, I don't know. There was a musical artist with sad breakup music that I suddenly can't remember. You know, what's the album she made after the third album? Was it the fifth album? Yeah. After 3 comes 5. Okay. Wait. What are we talking about? Where did the last 5 hours go? Why do I feel like going out and compulsively buying a bunch of useless products from brand names for 40% more than the generic ones? Did someone say my name? Where'd they go? Where's my family? Wait, did I have a family? Yes, I had kids, Bart and Lisa, and I'm Homer. No, that's not it. It's Frank. Last thing I remember, I was in high school. Now I'm 50 years old. What happened? Right, so when TV isn't robbing us of our free time, it's putting out all these commercials by Big Pharma. 60 Minutes supposedly, put out this show about Big Pharma and about synthetic heroin and all the opioid epidemic. But by the way, isn't 60 Minutes, isn't it nice of them to create a show that tells us exactly how much time we're going to waste watching it? But these commercials, they're trying to sell us opioids, which are synthetic heroin, and Adderall, which is synthetic meth. Insert meth commercial. This episode of Off the Top Podcast is brought to you by synthetic meth. Please pause for a brief word from our sponsors. Son, you know what you need more of. What's that, Dad? Meth. But you said I shouldn't do drugs. Not actual meth. Synthetic meth. It's okay because it's in a pill form, and the government allows us, so it must be okay. Well, how does that work? Well, a drug company pays a bunch of lawyers and lobbyists to make documents and convince congressmen. Where do the congressmen get their money from, Dad? Mostly donations from big pharma companies. But son, I'm talking about a government-approved pill form here. So what do these bought and paid for politicians do? Son, you're distracted. You're off topic here. I don't think you're paying enough attention to where I'm going with this. You're talking with too many topics in mind, and you may eventually be putting them together in a meaningful, coherent way, but in today's busy society, no one has time for depth of thought involving multiple topics. So in my dad brain, you must be talking just totally randomly. You need to focus on meth here, son. The reason you can't focus is because you need synthetic meth. But Dad, if meth makes most normal people more hyperactive, why don't you just issue it to the teachers so they can keep up with us instead? Son, civilization is not for free thinkers. It's for obedient mind slaves. Now finish drinking your fluoridated water and toxin-filled soup, take a deep breath of the chemicals in the air, and listen to me when I'm talking to you. But why, Dad? Son, this is just the way society goes. But Dad, if society told you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? Hey, no fair. That's my line, and it doesn't work in that context. Only when I tell you not to do drugs. Now don't do drugs, and let me tell you why you should do meth. And to answer your question, I would only jump off an FDA-approved bridge because they're here for us. But Dad, you said corporate lobbies and lawyers determine the law, and politicians that in turn hire the regulators. So in other words, the corporations and their hired components are making it legal to do drugs, so we can trust them by their own agreed-upon practices. But when local drug gangs do the same thing, it's different. Son, now you're getting it. Meth. Kid tested, doctor approved. Now shut up and take it and stop thinking too much, so you can learn via indoctrination. This podcast is also brought to you by Indoctrinated Education of Public Schools. It's a spoon-fed Prussian-based system that led to 2 world wars by Germanic Prussians, and it was adopted thanks to Horace Mann and by John D. Rockefeller, who sat on the Board of Public Education in 1903 to implement Pavlovian conditioning. Ring a bell? That's conditioning to produce factory workers that respond to a bell when they're children. Because who needs independent, creative, free-thinking leaders that can produce
more companies that compete with the powers that be. Now shut up and take your synthetic meth by Adderall and Big Pharma. So they're giving kids a million distractions so they can take a kid who has ADD and get him hooked on the synthetic brand of meth. As a society, we're enabling this type of behavior as normal, the same way an alcoholic pours everyone a drink so they can convince themselves they aren't the addict here. Why do you think the kids have ADD? It's like, here, son, let me interrupt whatever you're thinking about to occupy your mind because I'm busy. And I'll give you a bag lunch, but before you grab it, let me interrupt your thoughts. Remember your backpack. As you're reaching for your backpack, you better stop and run up the stairs. Don't forget your homework. Your Pop-Tart's in the toaster. By the way, turn off the TV that's jamming a bunch of jingles in your head as I tell you a list of lectures on what going to school and growing up means in terms of responsibilities. And remember to take the green bus home, except on Tuesday, when I'll be there at the east wing of the west exit, but not the west wing at the east exit. Meanwhile, remember your cell phone in your pocket as it automatically sends you push notifications and it jams your brainwaves full of RF, ELF, and EMF wireless waves. WTF! As they pass by every billboard, get all the information jammed in their heads, try to keep up with 3 different text messages with 5 different people in group text and everything else, and you unintentionally have to, they memorize every single song slogan as corporations compete for their attention. And as a footnote, we also expect an active imagination that is healthy in young children to be completely suppressed. Just erase all the creativity floating in your head and just focus on the wah, 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 wah. Even Charlie Brown has taught children to tune out their teachers. It's just irrelevant babble. Wah, 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 wah. What's that you say, teacher? Wah, 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 wah. I do need more synthetic meth. Also, we can think to ourselves, hey, you know what these kids need more of? Meth! That's what the doctors prescribe them, and doctors don't have a choice but to fulfill their Hippocratic oath. I think that's a good name for it, by the way. It even has the word hypocrite in it. But the Hippocratic oath states the doctors must abide by standard practices. That's the popular practices, even if they don't agree with it themselves. And hence, there's social proofing. So it's okay for doctors in white lab coats to be legal drug dealers with legal enforcers and billions of dollars in propaganda. Side effects may include, who cares? There's an obey, consume subliminal messages here. And you're in such a hypnagogic state from the TV that you won't care about the side effects. You'll think it's your own idea to give the kid meth. And then you can always get the drug dealer to prescribe more drugs to help with the side effects from the other drugs. Do the side effects of giving kid synthetic meth give you too much stress? Relieve the stress from synthetic meth for kids with synthetic heroin for adults. In case you aren't convinced that you need synthetic heroin, we return to the news program where we program you to think of all the bad things in the world that make you unsafe, so you're worried enough where you can't manage the stress without synthetic heroin by the makers of synthetic meth.
Synthetic heroin from the makers of synthetic meth.
So you can watch TV and just download a good portion of your life to the Matrix, and before you know it, it's gone. Or you can watch the commercials, convince yourself your kid has ADD, so you get them synthetic meth. Then he starts annoying you, so you turn on the news to tune him out. But then between the news stressing you out and your kid yelling at you, you're just stressed out enough to take the commercial seriously when they say, "Are you stressed? Do you want a solution? Have synthetic heroin." You know, they're talking every day about all the disasters and tragedies, anxiety, stress, depression. And we go to a commercial break. Anti-anxiety, anti-depression, anti-stress medication. You think this stuff isn't coordinated? You know? And then, by the way, side effects may include heartburn, upset stomach, diarrhea. Isn't that a Pepto-Bismol ad? And then they go to the Pepto-Bismol commercial next. Illuminati confirmed! You know, anyways, you flip the channel to Adult Swim. Rick and Morty. "Hey Morty, looks like I accidentally dropped a neutron bomb, so we gotta head to a parallel world where this cartoon slowly goes downhill and resorts to fart joke. Jeez, Rick, I don't want the world to blow up. Plus, what's wrong with making fun of the movie Inception and simulation theory and quantum entanglement and the episodes about the uncertainty principle? Morty, that's way over the head of the average TV watcher, and our audience is growing. Fast forward a few more episodes, it's intergalactic TV, where you watch a cartoon TV show, watch cartoon TV, you know? In case one layer of TV isn't enough, you get layers on top of layers, dreams on top of dreams, you know? Copies on top of copies, clones on top of clones, thrones on top of thrones. We're bringing them home, we're bringing them home. Come on.
Listen. Come on. Mic check, mic check. Copies on stock of copies. Clones on top of clones. Thrones on top of thrones. Bringing them home and bringing them home. Illuminati just try to stop me. Get carbon copies on top of carbon copies. Clones on top of clones. Thrones on top of thrones. We bringing them home and bringing them home, so come on. Are we all just a bunch of copies? Simulations inside of floppies. Once I'm going, you cannot stop me. Go ahead, just try to top me. Hell yeah, I'm getting cocky. Don't even try to block me. I'm getting sick of this with Kid Icarus doing this meticulous. Try to get with this. This is what I said, you better pick up a brick and throw it. This is what I said, it's all a joke because I don't know what to notice. I'm floating like a butterfly, floating like a floatus. Flower position as I meditate. Matter of fact, you better stay back, superposition when I head it straight. Picking out the patterns and language symbols of Saturn, sticking to the lattice and this dang simulated Atlantis. Matter of fact, you better step back before my hands get too rusty. Matter of fact, you better step back, trust me. Trust fall, this is what I said, yo, don't bust me. Out, I'm not ready. Here we go, yo, will this bust me? Out, I'm not ready.
Alright, so then you flip channels. Simpsons. Don't! You know, the Simpsons have a really creepy track record of predicting things. Insert list of creepy Simpsons predictions here. Like, I was watching them, and I actually once started to believe, hey, maybe they caused all these events. Because the word coincidence is from the word coincide. It refers to two or more converging things meeting. It's where they coincide. Right? That's separate from luck. Luck is a chance event. Asteroid hits the Earth, it's unlucky. When it lands in the ocean, harmless to everyone except a few cruise ships, and you cancel your trip to board the Titanic too, lucky, you know? But when you sold a book in your town where you hand-delivered the book after self-publishing, you manually called all the bookstores you could. You called all the local radio stations in the store, in the town of where you're selling those books, to sell the viewers listening who are also on their way to the same bookstore. It's not luck, it's coincidence. It's where they coincide. So everyone's watching TV. They're in a meditative, relaxed state. It's almost like a prayer, you know? It's like a little prayer, I cannot take you there. Right? And these images are like visualizations, you know? All the things you watch on TV. You're in this meditative state, here's your visualization, you know? It's like you're visualizing what you want in a prayer. Like, that TV pretty much just committed a crime against your soul. Like, The Simpsons just raped your prayers. Like, these symbols and patterns stand out in the mind as worthy of our attention. Then they become credible because we see them over and over again, right? Because they become part of our living room. Literally, they're in our living room as far as the subconscious knows. You know, a lion jumps out at the screen. You think it's in your living room. Your subconscious goes, oh, speed up the heart. Fight or flight, adrenaline. It doesn't stop to think, maybe this might be fake. You'd want to know about it before you could think and go, You know, you don't look at a mosquito and go, oh, what's that thing flying towards my eye until it hits your eyeball, you know? If someone's about to poke you in the eye, you don't just sit there wide-eyed wondering what he's doing. You know, you blink, you react, and then you ask questions later. But you see all these symbols. You see the Simpsons in your living room, and you're like, oh, they're these guys I trust. They're these real memories, but they're really not. You know, your subconscious says, hey, this is real stuff. Our subconscious doesn't know. So if the subconscious recognizes this as real, and then it realizes, wait a minute, there's inconsistencies with the world. I just saw that in real life, and it was different than what I saw in the other thing that I thought was real life in my living room. You know? So it seeks to resolve these inconsistencies. So you have the real world, you have the TV projection. And it acts as much as possible within its power to create these coincidences along with everyone else that's watching these same shows until it finally happens. All right, it's not just The Simpsons. They just happen to be one of the longest running, most popular cartoons. So they have credibility and a large enough audience. But as I was putting all of this together in my head, I woke up and I went, what? Huh? Where am I? Where did the last 5 hours go? Why do I feel like going out and compulsively buying a bunch of useless products from brand names for 40% more than the generic ones? Did someone just say my name? Where'd they go? Where's my family? Wait, did I have a family? Yes, I had kids. Bart, Lisa, and Homer. No, that's not it. It was Frank. You know, last thing I remember, I was in high school. Now I'm 50 years old. What happened? You know? And subliminal messages. They're real too. There's training manuals on it leaked from ad agencies. Ad agencies spend billions of dollars on this sort of thing. Subliminal messages aren't going to make you randomly show up in the Bronx with the N-word tatted on your butt with a target symbol around it with your middle finger and your pants down. With your middle finger up and your pants down. Right? For some reason, people dismiss subliminal messages because they're like, dear, I never noticed an overnight change in any of my habits. You know? But it's not like you plant a seed and you look the next day and it's an entire forest, you know? Things don't happen like that. They have to trickle, they have to plant, you know? They have to take root. You think these ad agencies would put as much effort as they do into making subliminal messages if they didn't work? Would they invest in commercials? Everyone thinks they're immune, which is why they still spend millions of dollars on a single 30-second ad at the Super Bowl and people will just be like, shush, it's a commercial, you know, at these Super Bowl parties. Then the actual game comes on and they just talk about the commercials through it, you know. The actual event that people go to see, they're talking about the commercials through these things. The best part of waking up, Frank, is Folgers. Frank, whoa, I'm trying to watch the game. What? Huh? Where am I? Who won? Why am I 50 years old? You know, TV's like just this mind parasite. Because your mind thinks it's real and it develops sort of this link to it. And it slowly eats away at your soul. You know, it develops this understanding of a world based on what happened in the Big Bang Theory, the TV show. As if those nerds would really attract wives that good looking. You know, some poor kid's watching Stranger Things. And he's going to get bit by a spider. And he's going to go, oh no, Mom, I think I'm in the upside down. You know, these TV things, these movies, these shows, they invade into our dreams and into our nightmares. And I have to admit, I'm just as guilty as anyone else of watching them. But consider this the journal of my life. So when I wake up and I'm 50 years old, finally someone can look at them and go, wait a minute, this guy was telling me something important. You know, maybe we can warn the others before it's too late. I just think subliminal messages are like anything else in life. Most people don't have any idea of how we learn language. And I'm sort of guessing here, but the kid makes baby babble. He hears noise, he records it in his mind. He hears parents make a sound. He makes his own baby babble, records it in his mind. He hears the parents' sound. He sees their lips move. He feels the emotional need. He tries to recreate the sound. He learns a word or two. Then he all has the sensory input, the flexible mind. He puts things together. Eventually, he's able to ask why. So he sort of puts things together. It's just millions of associations between the five senses. And they're put together in a sort of network, you know? But when he starts watching TV, you put subliminal messages in a huge portion of people's lives, and it associates one word to something else, creates all these associations. Before you know it, the kid's entire understanding of life is based on, you know, a quarter of it is based on a pseudo-reality. He thinks he's in the Matrix, you know, and they have him downloading in his mind. Also, Neo can learn Kung Fu. Meanwhile, the kid wakes up and goes, where am I? What happened? I'm 50. You know? Don't worry, people.
I know that sometimes while watching a show on TV, you turn on YouTube, or perhaps you take breaks, or perhaps you get your TV from YouTube and Netflix, and that's why you're here now. And we can create our own world where everyone works together and they're filled with love for each other. We can create a world without Adele and the number 4 and without the letters F and U. We can create a world without whack Donalds, where everyone's healthy and rich in spirit. So join with me. Together, we can save the planet. Heal the world. Make it a better place for you and for me and all the penguins and polar bears. There are people watching too much TV. Make it a better place for the human race, for you and for me. Tim, come on! Heal the world. Make it a better place. Come on! For you and for me and the penguins, polar bears. There are glaciers melting, so you gotta prevent global warming. So stop using your gas and driving SUVs. This song should be put in a lockbox. Come on! Gotta prevent global warming now. Yeah, lockbox. We should put this plan in a lockbox. Lockbox. Prevent global warming now. Woo! Lockbox. Come on now, Gore. Lockbox. Lockbox. Prevent global warming.